Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with a Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Tonight is a beautiful September the 8th, 2016, and we are all getting ready for some football, and we have the Denver Broncos taking on the Carolina Panthers. But I also want to say thank you to you good old boys in Latin America, so bienvenidos to you. Thank you for tuning in to Charlton and Big C Sports. Also, you good old boys in Dubai, as well as Berlin, Germany, and of course the great country of France. But I also would love to say thank you to Canada and the great United States. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south? Are you still smarting over the Alabama cheating USC out of a football game, Big C?
We're trying to figure out what happened and we knew USC had came into town.
Yeah.
And, they hung around for the first quarter, but I guess they into this quickies when it comes to park. In one quarter, and then the next 3 quarters they're going to sit around and watch the game. So,
yes.
It was just a marvelous kickoff to the college football season. But it's hot down here in the South, Charlton. We're, as they call it down here, we're in a drought state because we haven't had rain in 3 or 4 days. So
okay.
Everybody's a little nervous around here. We kind of understand what you're going through out there in California.
Oh, yeah, West Coast, we could always use more water, Big C. So, in fact, when you think about water, it hasn't rained out here in a long, long time, but we did get a lot of tears out in Southern California from Lynn Swan. They're wondering why they signed him to that 7-figure contract. I thought he was going to make a difference in that USC game, but maybe they'll have more luck against Utah State, Big C, when they play them on Saturday night. But you good old boys, I know you guys love football in the South, and tonight we have a dandy of a game starting off the NFL. We'll talk about a little bit of NFL. We'll also talk about a little bit of golf and a little bit of baseball with Tim Tebow. But also, Big C, when you think about tonight's game and how big of a game it is, just want to get your thoughts on Carolina on the road. They're actually a 3-point favorite going into Denver, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
A lot of people are calling this a Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
But this is nowhere near a Super Bowl rematch, Charlton, when you look at the combatants in this game. Denver starting the game for the first time since 1971, Charlton, was the last time this occurred, that an NFL team went into a regular season opener with 2 quarterbacks that have never taken an NFL snap. Trevor Siemian tonight and his backup out of the University of Memphis has never taken an NFL snap. This happened back in 1971 with the Houston Oilers when they had Dan Pastorini out of the University of Santa Clara as the number 1 overall draft pick. And then the second-round draft pick that year was a quarterback named Lynn Dickey out of Kansas State, who went on to have a stellar career with the Green Bay Packers prior to the arrival of a Bart Starr. Not a Bart Starr, but Brett Favre.
Yeah.
But, Trevor Siemian has to be a game manager tonight, Charlton, quarterback, because we know that the Panthers have a good pass rush.
Yeah,
so they're going to have to put a lot of boot action with him tonight, get him out of the pocket, get some open throwing lanes so he can get comfortable in finding some receivers.
Yeah.
They've retooled their offensive line in Denver, Charlton. So that's going to be a difference maker right there. They're going to have to see how quick that offensive line can gel together.
Well, you think
when you look on the other side of the football and you look at the Panthers, the Panthers have something they didn't have last year that they had lost from 2 seasons ago. Their number 1 receiver, Kelvin Benjamin. He was an all-rookie team out of Florida State and had some 1,300 yards in receptions as a rookie.
Yeah.
And so he was sorely missed by Cam Newton last year. They had a receivers corps that was, receiver by committee.
Yeah.
Even though they had a 15-1 regular season record, Charlton, they still didn't get all what they wanted out of their receiving corps. Now, they probably have the biggest set of receivers now in the NFL. When you look at Devin Funchess out of Michigan, you look at Jeremiah Quattrey out of South Carolina, and you look at Kelvin Benjamin out of Florida State.
Yeah.
Quattrey's the shortest of the bunch at 6'3".
Yeah.
Where you have Funchess at 6'6" and Benjamin at 6'5". You also have Greg Olsen out of Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Miami. 6'4", 6'5" tight end that's been an All-Pro.
Yeah.
So when you look at this receiving core in Carolina, Cam Newton has all the tools for success. Will his running game be just as strong with Williams this year as it was last year?
Yeah.
That's going to be a key to the success of this team. But their defense, they have 2 great linebackers, and Kuechly, he's the leader at the middle linebacker. So this I expect to be a stellar opening game. I look at Carolina having a little more offense experience than what Denver does, and I don't think that Denver can keep with them, in a shootout.
Yeah, definitely. You losing a guy like Peyton Manning. They also lost Brock Osweiler down to the Houston Texans. So brand new quarterback starting for the Denver Broncos. I don't think that bodes well for them playing against Carolina and Cam Newton. And speaking of playing against someone great, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them you want. Let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you, but also let them know that you don't want the one that Big C was driving around, because that's the one with the mud all over the tires, Big C. I think it comes with 24-inch tires or 22s, but if you see a lot of mud, that's the one Big C had, yeah.
That's what happens when you get rain. You get a little mud, it's not just dust covered, but you take that car out and you enjoy it.
You enjoy it to the fullest.
That the smell,
yeah,
and that fresh keel in the back of it.
Well, that's so funny. But think about the game tonight too with the Denver Broncos, and that's going to be a great ball game, I think, at least in the first half. And it looks like something that Carolina can pull away from. I know Denver's defense last year, they didn't give up more than 3 touchdowns per game. It seems they got really good down the stretch. But I want to ask you, Von Miller taking a long time to get him signed by John Elway. You look at a guy like Von Miller makes a difference for that team. I look at a guy like Andrew Luck, even though a different team up in Indianapolis, but $145 million for a guy that didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year. Didn't even play last year, Big C. But is that going to be kind of something that can affect the team where Elway's being tight with money, Big C, and didn't sign the guy who was the NFL or the Super Bowl MVP, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
Charlton, I think tight with the money versus not paying this top flight African-American athlete.
Yeah.
When we look around the players that have been paid here in this offseason in the NFL, there's a lot lesser players than Von Miller who got money equal to Von Miller.
Yeah.
When you look at that across the board. And no knock against Josh Norman, who played with the Panthers last year.
Right.
But he got $50 million from the Washington Redskins over 3 years.
That's a lot of money.
$50 million.
Yeah.
He plays out on an island.
Yeah.
Von Miller plays right in the middle of everything. It was a game changer.
Yeah.
You'll see Josh Norman periodically on plays. You saw Von Miller on every play, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's the difference of an organization willing to pay the players. And you look geographically where Washington, D.C. is, and the populace of the people in that area.
Yeah.
They paid Josh.
Yeah.
Not a problem. But here's Denver, Mile High City, a lot of tax revenue from cannabis and all that other stuff.
Yeah, that's why they call it Mile High City now, huh? Mile High Part 2, Big Z.
John Elway, you have to question his football IQ.
Yeah.
When it came
of
holding out on Von Miller.
Yeah.
You give all of these quarterbacks, you paid Paxton Lynch right off the bat.
Yeah.
Their backup quarterback, their number 1 draft pick.
Yeah.
You had no problem giving him money right off the bat. And, this is the thing when you look at it. You pay certain players and you don't pay others. It goes back to the 60s and 70s with African-American players in the NFL.
Yeah.
They would draft all these players, Charlton, out of black colleges.
Yeah.
They would draft the white players, Charlton, out of the predominant universities.
Yeah.
Draft them first, second round. They draft all the African-American players, and back in those days, they had 15 to 22 rounds in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
They would draft them in the lower rounds.
Yeah.
They get them at a bargain basement price. You get 5 African-American players for the price of 1 white player. Yet the African-American players, when you look at the NFL Hall of Fame, they are lacing the walls with bust from these players. And they got them at a bargain basement price. And the guys that are paying money are sitting there watching them, during the ceremony.
Well, we talk about Vince Lombardi all the time being a great coach for the NFL. I remember there was some pushback when he was trying to get in African-American players, but he told the league officials that, look, I'm going to draft the best players, period. And he was one of the first owners to let African-American players play on his team along with he and Al Davis. So they talk about how great he was, but there was always such a pushback for black athletes back then, the same way there is in media, where they don't get the same kind of, relief from the media if they make a mistake. We bring up Colin Kaepernick, how he was saying he didn't want to stand for the flag. And now the 49ers, they're actually putting their money where their mouth is. They're actually giving $1 million to match Colin Kaepernick and trying to give money back to youth organizations, Big C. Had Colin Kaepernick not taken that stand, how many more people would pull $1 million out of their bank account, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I look at Colin Kaepernick, Charlton, and I praise what Colin Kaepernick has done.
Yeah.
He has opened up more dialogue. Everybody was uncomfortable in America on how to open up the dialogue on the racial divide, the injustice, to create awareness.
Yeah.
He did it. He took it upon himself. He put the world on his back.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm not going to stand for this any longer.
Yeah.
I'm just an individual, but it's like voting, Charlton. Everybody votes count.
Yeah.
And you have to start somewhere in life. You're not going to start at the top. You have to take that first step.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick took that first step for American society. There's many people that want to blast Colin Kaepernick about being socially aware and having a social consciousness.
Yeah.
What is their stance on all of this? They're saying, well, you shouldn't put it from that way. What is the proper way, Charlton, to approach social injustice in America? Because 400 years of slavery and injustice towards black people in America, no one has opened up the dialogue to say this is the correct way to handle this injustice that has occurred for over 400 years in America.
Yeah.
No one has stepped up and said, hey, we're going to pay back and we're going to be contrite about all that has occurred to you people. We're going to level the playing field.
Yeah.
No one has ever done that, from a senator to a president to a judge to a police chief.
Yeah.
No one, Charlton. So who and when is the proper time to open up dialogue? And what is the biggest arena in America?
It's sports.
Sports, Charlton.
Yeah, sports will do it. Sports
and
is...
the NFL is the largest cathedral of them all.
Yeah.
So if you take that cathedral, since everybody believes in religion, you take this cathedral and you open up the dialogue in this cathedral.
Yeah.
So everybody has a chance. But when you look at the backlash against Colin Kaepernick in opening up dialogue, you see the racial divide in America, whether it's black or white.
Yeah.
If you're black and you look at it from a negative perspective, you've been whitewashed.
Yeah.
You're not free thinking. You're saying the stuff that you think other people want you to say.
Yeah.
Because these things are happening to your family members, your friends, your culture.
Yeah.
As a white player, you don't have to deal with this.
Well, I think
you go to areas of the town where this doesn't occur. You grew up in areas of towns that this didn't occur. So socially, it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
You don't understand the divide. You have to have walked in a man's shoes to understand what he's gone through. If everybody thinks it's easy, that's why everybody can't play in NFL, Charlton.
Well,
because you don't have the ability to understand and comprehend or play the game. And that's what social justice is, Charlton.
Yeah.
People don't understand and comprehend what it is.
Well, I think sometimes when you think about what it's going to take to bring our society together, I've always said that sports will bring Americans closer than the church. The church is very segregated on Sundays. Most people look just like the person in the mirror, at least in the athletic playing fields. People play together. They call different people brothers, or you're my brother, you're my teammate. Different colors, doesn't matter, different religion.
Family, Charles. Family.
It's a family, it's a brotherhood. And speaking of, I think you mentioned Jesus. Well, I've been praying to Jesus about something. Tonight's segment is brought to you by the California Lottery, and I think the Powerball on Saturday, Big C, is over $200 million. It's going to be won by Charlton and Big C. I've been praying about it. Also, the Mega Million is over $100 million. And we've been praying to Jesus about that, too. I know it worked for Creflo Dollar. He got an airplane out of it, Big C. You know, TD Jakes follows us on Twitter, and also praying for him and Creflo Dollar, as well as Joel Osteen, to pray for Charlton and Big C Sports to get this $300 million. Not a lot of money in Joey Bosa's world, Big C, but I think you and I can take it, Big C. Your thoughts on the lottery and how it can help change lives, Big C.
well, for Joey, when he put a few more $1 million in his pocket, Glenn got here and he pulled a hamstring up and gave some tightness. But you look at the lottery in California over the years, it's been tremendous for education, Charles. 50% of the money that is piped into the lottery system goes into the education, and that benefits the youth of America. And we've talked about that a lot on our show. How do you benefit the youth of America? We look at our brethren in the sports industry. They never talk about benefiting the youth. They talk about the millionaires and how the millionaires are being benefited and what else they're getting out of what they're not doing right. But they never tell you during these sports shows, Charlton, what they're not doing right in their lives.
That's true.
You know, and that's why they have so much turnover on these shows, because people have done things on these shows and they've lost. But, you know, any way that you can benefit the youth, and you spoke about the 49ers spending $500,000 on two organizations that are going to fight for social justice. And that's, you know, you're benefiting the social consciousness of America. And you start with the youth. Once you get the youth corrected, Charlton, then you can turn the curve on the problems that we have. And so I commend Jed York.
I do too.
$1 million.
I do too.
But it took his quarterback to be lambasted through the media for him to finally understand it. And when you look at an NFL roster, Charlton, there's 53 different sets of ideas in there. 53 different personalities. And some get along and some don't. But as you spoke about, they were brother and their family. they have a common cause, and that's to win.
Yeah.
And whatever it takes to win, you have to help your brother up. It's like in the military, nobody being left behind.
Yeah, especially the
That's
Marines.
the same thing as you look at on a professional sports team.
Yeah.
Nobody is left behind because we're in this together.
Yeah.
And so management realize that they have to be in it with the players. They cannot be anti-player.
Yeah. And
And that's why they're standing behind Colin Kaepernick.
And you know, even the Seattle Seahawks, they were talking about taking some type of a stand of unity. And I think as long as people understand, if you really look at the Star Spangled Banner, look at it word for word. There's two halves of it. Read the second half. It talks about slaves not meaning anything. And that's still in there. So when people talk about getting upset about Colin Kaepernick, don't be ignorant. Read it first. Read it word for word and see what it's saying about slaves not having any life. No matter. They didn't matter. Okay, that's still left in there. So I can understand someone standing up against that. I know society changes. But this is a great country, America, and it's great because we can all agree and disagree, Big C. And also, speaking of something that's great, I want to just bring something up a little bit away from football right now. One of the greatest basketball players I think that's ever played, Shaquille O'Neal, getting ready to go into the Hall of Fame. I think if Shaquille O'Neal had Kobe Bryant's work ethic, or even Michael Jordan's, he would have had more championships, as great as he is, Big C. But do you see where he could have even been better, Big C?
Shaq Charlton is one of the largest and most talented in history.
Yeah.
When you think about this man standing 7'1", about 330, 340, and athletic.
Yeah. So you're saying he could have played? He could have played for the Alabama offensive line? Is that what Lynn Swann is saying, Big C?
Well, he thought that Shaq was out there dominating and towering over him during the game.
Yeah.
But when you think about Shaq Charlton, he won 4 championships in his career.
Yes.
Not many players will ever get to half of that, Charlton.
Yeah.
But the most dominant and imposing physical ever seen.
Yeah.
In the NBA. But as Shaq got into his career, Shaq got in his alternative career also, where he enjoyed the media, he enjoyed the spotlight, he enjoyed enhancing his life,
Yeah, he definitely
into
did
the
that.
court.
Right. He did that very much so, Big C.
He went along with one of his brethren who is getting ready to go into the Hall of Fame also this weekend, Allen Iverson. When you talk about practice,
No.
who needs practice? I get to the Hall of Fame without practice.
Well, is it a good thing? Go ahead, Big C. Go ahead. Is it a good thing that they tell guys they don't have to practice and they're still getting to the Hall of Fame? Was that a bad precedent, Big C?
It's not a bad precedent, Charlton. We have great athletes who can do a lot of things, and people get envious of these people, and they look at it from a negative perspective. Well, your team, you got to go out there and practice with your team.
Right.
Professional sports is about mentality, Charlton. Everybody's in shape when they come to play, okay?
Yes.
But it's about understanding, comprehension, and reaction.
Yes.
And that's what.
Well, Big C, I understand that, and they also got to understand that every time you lace it up, you're going to have to be judged by what you do on the court. Sometimes practice is not as important, but I do think that Shaq was a great player, just could have been a little bit better player in my opinion.
Charlton, his career was cut short because of his laziness.
Yeah.
He got overweight, he started getting injured, and so that shortened his career. He could have got another 4 to 5
Wait,
years.
you sound like Charles. You sound like Charles Barkley right now, Big C. Is this Charles Barkley and Big C talking about Shaq?
Well, if you'd have had the tenacity of Hakeem Olajuwon,
yeah.
When you think about his work ethic, you think about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, labored up and down the court in the NBA for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Long time, big man, 7'3". You think about Bill Russell, what he brought to the plate. If Shaq had those players' work ethic, Shaq would have easily had 8 to 10 championships, Charlton, because he was just that dominant.
Yeah.
And no one could stop him, but his laziness early in his career got him into foul trouble.
Yeah.
And later on in his career got him into injury trouble, Charlton.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But Shaq, I praise Shaq. I appreciate Shaq. Shaq has made it to the Naismith Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And, congratulations. He'll be immortalized forever.
Right.
He was already immortalized.
Yeah.
But now he's immortalized forever in the annals of basketball and in the hollow ground of the Hall of Fame.
Well, speaking of the Hall of Fame, this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed life insurance up to $100,000 with no medical questions asked. And I'm also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help represent United Labor. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. Tweet out the Charlton Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I also want to say that sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation of this billion-dollar industry. And every Monday through Friday on the iHeartRadio network, you can follow Charlton and Big C Sports as we talk about sports, whether it's pro, college, and even boxing and MMA and some of the entertainment industry. We love what we do, Big C. And speaking of loving what we do, Tim Tebow, not only was he a Heisman Trophy winner at Florida, University of Florida, he also won a national championship at the University of Florida. He was drafted into the NFL, actually played for the Denver Broncos. I think he's a better quarterback than Trevor Siemian, but he can't seem to find a job in the NFL. So what are your thoughts on Tim Tebow?
Well, I look at Tim Tebow. Today, Tim Tebow's signed with the New York Knicks. He's going to play in their instruction.
Right.
It's high baseball player.
Right.
That was part of his throwing paralysis when he was a quarterback, is that he still had that same motion. But
right.
When you look at Tim Tebow, and people said that Tim Tebow wasn't a quality NFL quarterback, he was a number 1 draft pick.
Right.
Okay, he beat Pittsburgh.
Right.
Okay? And they're saying, well, he's not a good quarterback, but he beat Ben. He threw over 300
he beat
yards.
Big Ben, yeah. He did do that, Big C.
Look at that. You compare that to Blaine Gabbert, who was looking for quarterback for the 49ers this weekend.
Yeah.
Blaine Gabbert was a second quarterback taken in the first round behind Cam Newton. He went number 5 overall to Jacksonville.
Yes.
And in the 5 years he's been in the NFL, Charlton, starting over 30 games, he's only won 7.
Yeah, well, that's all they need, Big C. 7 wins is enough for them if you match the right. well, see, the problem with you, Big C, is you always want to talk about the facts. Can't you just like people because they tell you you like them, Big C? Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, that year that Tim Tebow took the Broncos to the playoffs, you got to realize, Charlton, Denver ripped off 8 consecutive wins that year.
Yeah.
When they put Tim Tebow in to start at quarterback, 8 consecutive wins. Blaine Gabbert has 7 in a 5-year career. Tim Tebow did 8 consecutive wins.
Yeah.
But they're saying that Tim Tebow was not an NFL quarterback and Blaine Gabbert is. So I'm trying to understand who are the analytics out there that's saying that Blaine Gabbert should be starting quarterback in the NFL with 7 victories in 5 years.
Well, when we also think about the NFL, I just want to share something, too, because one of my favorite players of all time was Ray Lewis, and I love the way he played football for the University of Miami, also played for the Baltimore Ravens, helped them win a Super Bowl over the 49ers when they had the blackout in New Orleans. But I hear that some people thought that Ray Lewis was us this morning when he was talking about having an Ali consciousness, Big C. I mean, I know we've been talking about that for about a year, Big C, but what's up with Ray Lewis and one of your friends from the Denver Broncos, Big C? Now they're having an Ali consciousness, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I heard about that also, that they got this new show with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
And Ray Lewis was a guest on this show.
Yeah.
But, what he did was emulated what we had been talking about, having an Ali consciousness along with the Jim Brown, Harry Edwards, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was talking about that, and I'm like, gosh, I've heard this.
I thought it was you when I heard about it.
And I'm like, okay, and Shannon Sharp, we've polarized the injustice of African Americans in America. We've talked from slavery to where we are.
Yeah.
And that was the platform of their show this morning. And I want to give thanks to everybody on ESPN and Fox Sports for listening to Charlton and Big C. We really appreciate it. But at least give us a little acknowledgement of where you're plagiarizing your material from.
Yeah, in fact,
you guys are on the largest platforms in the world, television.
Yeah.
But we're here. We're on iHeartRadio. We're giving you the information that you need for your show, and you're going out there and it's your own.
Yeah, at least
every 12 to 24 hours after every show that we do, Charlton, we can go to television and see the show on television because everybody's using bits and pieces, whether it's Stephen A. Smith, whether it's, Sterling Sharp, Shannon Sharp, whoever.
Mike and Mike, Colin Coward, all those guys,
all of them.
In
They're
fact,
doing it, Charlton.
In fact,
and I praise these guys. I thank them for using our material. But television and radio, you don't have copyright infringement.
Well, I understand. It's all a good love affair, Big C. And also something else I want to bring up too is when you think about football and the great game tonight that we're going to be seeing against the Carolina Panthers and Denver Broncos. Herschel Walker, he started 30 years ago in the NFL, but he was drafted by the great Donald Trump, your friend, Big C, in the USFL out of Georgia. Your thoughts on the great Herschel Walker 30 years ago in the game, Big C?
Last I heard that you and Donald Trump had the same barber, Charlton. So
no.
you probably hang out with him more than what I do.
Hey, I'm all shaved, Big Z. I'm all shaved, Big Z.
Well, he is, too. I don't know what that is on top of his head, but it doesn't look live.
That's called a toupee, Big Z, from what I understand, a toupee.
A two-piece.
Okay.
He was two-piece.
But you gotta bless Donald Trump. He speaks his mind, whether you agree with him or not, Big C.
Well, you look at Herschel Walker, Charlton, and 30 years ago today was his first game. The opening game of, ironically, this year's NFL season is the 30th anniversary of Herschel Walker playing his initial NFL game with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And I don't give Herschel the credit for what he accomplished in the NFL. He was a two-time All-Pro with the Dallas Cowboys. Very successful for an entire football team. Herschel Walker was the basis of the 80s and 90s championship teams of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
His trade with the Minnesota Vikings, who brought some dozen players, as well as Troy Aikman, to that organization, Charlton, catapulted that Dallas Cowboy organization back to prominence in the NFL. Herschel Walker still went on to have a stellar career with the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
He rushed for well over 10,000 yards, Charlton, in his NFL career. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
He rushed for over 10,000 yards, had over 40, which are numbers when you look at a lot of the backs in the Hall of Fame. Herschel Walker has numbers that are equal, if not greater, than several of those running backs.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, Charlton, to me, Herschel Walker was the greatest running back in college.
Oh, you ever hear of a guy named Marcus Allen and O.J. Simpson, Big C, when you think about great?
Well, put O.J. number 2 on the list, Charlton, for what he did in college.
Yeah.
Tremendous running back at USC. Should have actually been the first two-time Heisman Trophy winner. They gave it to Gary Beeman his junior year.
Yeah.
He should, and he got it his senior. But, it wasn't a big thing back in those days to give African-Americans, quote-unquote, the Heisman Trophy. You didn't want to give too many of them that trophy, and everybody knew that O.J. was the greatest player in the country at that time.
Yeah.
But Herschel Walker, when you think of his accomplishments, he rushed for some 5,800 yards, Charlton, in just 3 short years at the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
If he'd have gone back for his senior year, he'd have pushed that well over 7,000 yards, a number that no one would have ever eclipsed on the college football level. And there's been many great running backs when you look at the history of college football. Charles White, who Marcus Allen blocked for at USC, won the Heisman Trophy. Take Billy Sims, George Rogers, all of these great running backs over the years, Charlton. But Herschel Walker was unparalleled in his power and his speed as a college football player at the University of Georgia.
And speaking of power and speed, this final segment is sponsored by BeneathThisWingsFoundation.org and CYNN Entertainment. Contact Cynthia Evans when it comes to promotion. She's the best in Northern California. Big C, I also want to just wrap up our football kickoff on a Thursday night. We have a great game here coming up in the great state of Colorado with the Denver Broncos hosting the Carolina Panthers. I want to apologize for any technical difficulties. We're coming to you live from the campus of Sacramento State, watching the Hornets try to make their leap into the Pac-12. Maybe the next 20 years, Big C will be the Pac-16. Sacramento's they're going to go sting some people, Big C. Hopefully they'll get that horse to wake up against USC that fell asleep in the Alabama game. But just again, if you can recap, I know this is a great defensive effort tonight by both teams, Carolina and Denver. But what are you looking forward to as a defensive player? You've been around the business so long in the broadcast, TV, and radio. But as a player, defensively, Von Miller, will he be on the same tear that he was last year? Or are you looking at Kuechly, his counterpart, to have a big game tonight, Big C?
Well, when you look at the linebacking core, Charlton Trevathan also there, Denver, tremendous linebacker. And Dave Atlanta. They have tremendous linebacker cores. The secondaries will make a difference. You look at Carolina, Charlton. They drafted 3 cornerbacks. They lost Josh Norman, an all-pro corner, went to Washington. But they drafted 3 cornerbacks, and teams don't normally do that. They were all high-round draft picks. So they expect to have a stellar secondary once again. But the pass rush is going to be key. We talked about Simeon being able to get out of the pocket on some boot action. Get him away from the pass rush because they know that Carolina will blitz him. They will show him packages that he hasn't seen. And you and I talked about this several shows ago. When you got a quarterback, Charlton, who has not played in the NFL, you got to go back and pull out some 1986 Chicago Bear defense. You got to bring that Bear defense and go after him. You put 8 men in the box. You put 3 in coverage, lock him up, man, and make him beat you with his arm. You want to see if he's a legitimate player. And that's what I do if I'm Carolina. I'm bringing 7, 8 play. I know that Denver has a decent running game with Anderson. I know tremendous receivers. But they have a revamped offensive line, Charles. And I don't really put the trust in Simeon until he proves that he can beat me. Anybody can beat anybody on any game day.
Well, Big C, let me ask you this question, too. The final question. a game that everybody's interested in Northern California. There's actually two. I want to cover the Oakland Raiders. They're on the road for an early game against the New Orleans Saints, and Drew Brees just signed that new contract extension for 2 years. Your thoughts on Oakland? They really have to turn the corner. This is a team that can no longer keep talking about making the right moves. McKenzie and Del Rio, they've been at it this is going to be their second year together now. They have a great coaching staff. Everything looks great on paper, Big C. Carr looks ready to explode. Almost 4,000 yards last year, but they can't afford to go down to New Orleans and drop game one, Big C. But it's an early start. Your thought on the Raiders and New Orleans?
Well, the Raiders' defense performed like during the preseason, like New Orleans' defense performed last season.
Yeah,
they didn't have one.
Yeah,
and that's been the Achilles heel, here this season, is that they're expecting for their defense to step up. I mean, people have thrown the ball on them. The Raiders came in expecting to have a great pass rush.
Yeah,
but the secondary has not proven that they can play at that high competition level, and so that you've had people beating them deep. Murray has not performed at the level they expect him to do at running back. We know what Carr's ability is, but you got Cooper. Cooper has to get rid of that drop-itis. He dropped several long balls last year that cost the Raiders games.
Yeah.
And so that's key. Playing against Drew Brees, Charlton, with this Raiders secondary, Drew Brees is going to go out and throw for 400 yards.
Well, see, Lynn Swann is still mad that Cooper wasn't at Alabama this year because he could have dropped more balls against the USC team, Big C. But obviously a little bit too late to schedule that game. And then also I want to ask you one more thing. Across the bay, the first time in 22 years we're going to have the Los Angeles Rams playing at the San Francisco 49ers, which is also in Santa Clara. Just your thoughts on that game coming in to Levi Stadium, the Rams, and I guess one of the most successful coaches that hasn't won a lot. I think he's 6-15 in his seasons of coaching for Jeff Fisher. But your thoughts on that game, the Rams at the 49ers, Big C, renewing the old rivalry?
I kind of give the Rams an offensive advantage in this game, Charlton, because you got Todd Gurley in the backfield.
Yeah.
And Todd Gurley is a difference maker from the running back.
Well, wait a minute. The Niners have Blaine Gabbert, Big C. How do you give the Rams an advantage on that one, Big C? You Blaine Gabbert. That's when Chip Kelly's going to start him.
Oh, that's right.
Chip Kelly's already trying to lose his job. He's starting a guy that won 7 career games.
Blaine Gabbert's a little skittish when he's in the pocket. I mean, he looks good coming on the field.
Yeah.
It's just what he does when he gets on the field and the lack of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, I give Case Keenum an advantage. He's a better thrower than Blaine Gabbert. But when you have a Todd Gurley in your backfield, he's an equalizer. The 49ers have been unsettled at running back.
Yeah.
Who knows who Blaine Gabbert is supposed to be throwing to? They don't have a receiving corps.
Yeah.
Their offensive line has been revamped. The defense is not what the defense was that was going to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship games. They lost 8 of those players that used to play on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
So this is a brand new San Francisco 49ers team than what it was 3 years ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
When Jim Harbaugh was the coach. So you have to look at that perspective and look at what they're going to be facing with the Rams. The Rams are an exciting team. They have a great young defense. They drafted a lot of defensive players, and their defensive line is all number 1 draft picks.
Yeah.
So they can get after people. They have a good linebacker, Alex Ogletree, out of the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
He can play some football. So look at the Rams coming in and dominating this game. I don't see where the 49ers offensively can find enough keep up with the Rams, and the Rams will get their first victory being back in the state of California.
Well, thinking about the Rams having a first victory, just more games on Sunday night. The Raiders, we talked about the Raiders being at New Orleans. There's San Diego at Kansas City, Cincinnati at the New York Jets, and the Giants are at Dallas, Detroit's at Indianapolis, and New England's at Arizona, which might be a preview of the Super Bowl. On Monday night, we have 2 games. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Washington Redskins, and we just talked about the Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. But Big C, as I always love to say, we love what we do every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on this NFL Kickoff Thursday on Charlton and Big C Sports worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. As we always want to say, no domestic violence. If you see any woman in trouble, call 911. Let's keep our women safe as we enjoy this great football kickoff season tonight with the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. And as we always say, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.